Virgo is all about sacred service. Virgo is an earth sign, and she, to me, represents the Divine Mother. It's even if we didn't have the best relationship with our own mother, we all have access to the Divine Mother within us. And this has been the biggest theme of my entire journey. We're going to not only talk about Virgo today, but I also feel led to talk about Chiron and your fourth house. So, Chiron as a collective is in the fourth house right now, which is connected to your home environment. And it could be your home environment as a child and how you were brought up and where you were brought up. It also can relate to where you're living right now, who you're living with right now, and any wounds that are coming up around that. Coming back to Virgo, so this is a new moon, which is really powerful for setting new intentions. This is the time to plant new seeds. The theme that was coming up for me for Virgo is all about surrender. Like I was talking about, Virgo tends to be a perfectionist. And if you're like me, I will sometimes get stuck in the healing phase, thinking I need to do one more training, I need to do one more breath work, I need to do one more Kundalini yoga or one more class before I can fully step into service. And when I think about the people who were my mentors or coaches or the people that inspired me, they took their imperfections, they moved before they were ready, they took their mess and made it into their message. And so that's where I'm really feeling that gentle, loving push from the universe. We are ready now, and we have learned enough to be able to help someone. Slowing down to ground. I feel like sometimes in our society, we are used to like this go, 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 and you have to like do to be productive and like boss babe energy. And yes, there is a time to take aligned action and making movement and momentum, but also with Virgo being an earth energy, I take that as a sign to slow down, to be really present with my senses, to get out in nature. I know Mallory's going out in nature today. I spent my morning grounding today because nature is so healing. And when we are making these massive shifts or we're going through things like grief, really connecting to our body and getting in our body is where the wisdom is going to be. It's so easy to get stuck in our heads and stuck in overthinking. And so I really want to invite you in this next season to slow down, to breathe, to just like sit with what's coming up, sit with your emotions, sit with the weather. I know it's so simple and basic, but it really comes down to that. Not overcomplicating things. How can I be really intentional doing less instead of just doing more to be productive? And then most of us probably have experienced burnout. So it's like, how can I be really intentional with my energy and with the resources that I have? And how can I redefine prosperity? I'm seeing the Queen of Pentacles. It doesn't have to just be money. We all have this abundance of wisdom that we came here to share and these messages that we came here to share. And I know I sometimes get so caught up on like worrying about money. Like, do I have enough money? And I feel like the message that keeps coming through is focus on service and doing what you love, and your needs will always be provided for. And I've seen that in my own life even though it's been so fucking difficult. I made that trust fall leap the beginning of December 2021, sold all my things. I was feeling called to go onto this journey to come home to myself. And I have not had a consistent job since the end of 2021, and the universe has provided for me in unconventional ways. I've manifested paid clinical study opportunities to where I got to go do mushrooms in a clinical setting and got paid for it and was working on building up things for my business while doing that. So I guess I'm sharing this to open your mind to the possibility that at first, the money may not come through your business and the universe is still going to provide for you. So, not putting so much pressure on yourself to perform in your business and knowing that it can come through a partner. I've had friends and partners who have helped to support me during the past couple years. clinical studies and even dog sitting. So it's just being open to the opportunities that are around you and sitting with all the prosperity that's in your life that's not just connected to money. So, and then that leads me to the last one, which is rituals. So these are grounded rituals. It's the practices that you're doing every day. Those little things are going to make the big shifts, which I know you all have some sort of something that you're incorporating in your day. So being really intentional with that and how you're spending your time and cutting out anything that is a distraction, that is not fully lighting you up. That yesterday, Danielle and I went live and we talked about like resistance, and she brought up this really important point about chasing those dopamine highs. And when we start to go after our dreams, sometimes we will avoid that by going back to old patterns. Or for me, lately, I've been going and getting a snack like every 30 minutes and just procrastinating. And so it's finding things to help you feel grounded and build the resilience to move through the resistance, doing that in a really grounded way. So I'm going to invite you to go ahead and take a deep breath. Breath has been a really big part of my journey. I think all three of you are either familiar or even trained in hypnosis, meditation. That's such a good way to, even if it's just a couple minutes a day, just sitting there and being open to what wants to come through you, not trying to force an outcome and just really opening up to that wisdom that wants to channel through you. Today, I have a guided meditation that I felt led to walk you through. Before we do that, I did want to touch on Chiron as well, because this is going to relate to your message and what you came here to share. So, as you all were sharing, you brought up some things that maybe it's past or present painful experiences that you're going through. And Chiron is the wounded healer. It's your deepest wound and how you can turn it into divine wisdom. So right now, Chiron is transiting the fourth house, which is the house of home and family, with Virgo being an earth sign. So I'm picturing like flowers. They need a certain environment in order to thrive. If I wanted to go plant a garden in Las Vegas, it's going to be a lot harder to keep that garden alive in the middle of July or August than if I were to plant it in the spring in somewhere like Georgia. So, as we're talking about what's coming up today, I want you to be mindful of your own environment, and it doesn't even have to be related to family. It could be like the actual environment that you're choosing to be in and asking yourself, is it serving you? And this is something that I've been asking myself a lot just with my own journey right now of still being on this nomadic journey. And I'm at a place where I'm really wanting to feel grounded and supported and secure. And I'm so used to there being so much chaos and change that I'm like, I don't have to keep doing this anymore. Danielle, did you have something you wanted to jump in and say?
I normally wouldn't ask this, but my little voice is like, ask, because I don't know, maybe it'll help multiple people in the group. Can you expand a little bit on, like, just, I love when you do your channeling. You're so incredible like that. Oh my God, my spark session with you. And every time we talk, you always channel all this awesomeness. Can you go a little bit more with the whole like environment I'm choosing, when to plant seeds, what's serving, and just like keep open, but like let me know what kind of comes through, if that's
Yeah,
cool.
definitely. What also is interesting, I'm just going to stop the share real quick just so I can see you all more easily. So today, actually, it was last night, we just entered gate 59, Gene Keys and Human Design, which is in my incarnation cross, which is like my whole theme. And Gene Key or Human Design gate 59 is about intimacy. And sometimes I will hold back from fully being transparent with people, and that is part of what I'm here to do is share open and vulnerably and authentically. And so I love that Danielle, she's so good at being like, what are you actually trying to say? Because I know you want to say something, but you're kind of like beating around the bush or whatever. So for me, how this has showed up is in my first marriage, I had made a lot of mistakes I was coming from a very wounded place. Even the way we met, it was when I was 13 at church, and it was a very karmic bond. And I got to a place in 2017 to 2019 where I like was the most depressed I had been, and I knew I needed to leave that marriage. I actually knew before I got married that I wasn't supposed to be marrying him. It was like intuitive hit where it's like, are you sure about this? But at the time, my mom was so excited because she also met my dad at 13. So I had made a lot of choices based out of people pleasing, and I got into that marriage, and I kept staying in that environment, even though I knew I wasn't able to become who I fully was meant to be in that marriage. And someone I started following recently, her name's Margot Miller, and she talks about decentering men and stepping into the powerhouse that you were meant to be, and how sometimes we will hide out in these relationship situations that are not serving us. And sometimes we stay for far too long because it almost feels more comfortable than actually taking the leap. And so I stayed in that marriage for 9 years and just learned so many lessons. Near the end, I was really wanting to work on myself, but he wanted to keep bringing up all the mistakes that I had made. I had cheated on him with 6 different people. It was a lot. I was in this downward spiral of really what was happening is I was seeking validation outside of myself. I was seeking love outside of myself. I wasn't getting that need fulfilled in my marriage. And I thought by going to people outside of my marriage, it would fill this hole that was deep inside me. But really, what needed to happen was I needed to fill that within myself. And I wasn't able to feel safe to do that in my first marriage. And so, even though we had 2 kids together and I thought I was going to stay for the kids, it was not a healthy dynamic, especially near the end. So then when I left Las Vegas in 2021, I was like not wanting to leave my kids, but also having all these wounds come up. And also, I was going through things where I was needing to like file for a restraining order, and things were still toxic between my ex and I. And so sometimes we need to make choices that are best for us, even if it doesn't feel better for other people. And even though my kids really wanted me to stay there and I really wanted to stay there, in that time, I really needed to focus on my healing, and I was not even safe at my own apartment because my ex would come banging on the door trying to get in and would not pick up the kids from school because I taught at their school and things like that. And so, what I'm sharing this for is you might be in a situation where it feels more comfortable to stay, or maybe you feel like that's what you should do because society says XYZ. Like me being a mom, most moms wouldn't move out of the state to go focus on their own healing and allowing their kids to stay with their ex. And my ex is actually a really, really good dad, and he's really good with consistency. Like he's the 9 to 5, gets them to school on time, does homework with them, like, and I'm more of a free spirit. I was feeling this pull to travel place to place, and through that, I activated a lot of different healing. And I've also been really intentional when I do go back with my own kids. Danielle and I talked about this. It's the quality over the quantity, and being really intentional with the time that we do have, the resources we do have. And so I had done a lot of healing. I was actually at a really good place with my kids where it was working for both of us. And even though it was unconventional, it felt really good for me. And I felt like it was best for my kids because it was more toxic when I was in the same city as my ex-husband, just because he was putting them in the center of things. I was probably adding to a lot of that as well. I'm definitely not blaming him. Our toxic dynamic was not good for the kids. So, anyways, I did a lot of healing, and I got to a place where I'm like, I feel so good, like Danielle's on your own, just being independent. Like when you had that gypsy song that was playing, that was me when I first got away from my ex-husband. I was like, I'm never gonna get married again. I feel good with the schedule that I have with my kids. And right as I was starting to take the steps to make this big quantum leap, I had also been right before that manifesting my twin flame and divine union. So then I had met Zach. And we had a lot of synchronicities. I met him on 528, which is it was my daughter's 8th birthday. I was flying back from Las Vegas. I had celebrated with her and we had so much in common. He was NLP certified. It was 528, which was is also like the frequency of love. And we just both were into working with psychedelics for transformation. And although I really enjoyed our connection, like even our first conversation, we both were like, I like you. Immediately, he's like, I want to marry you. I want to be in a relationship with you. And I was just at a place where I had told the universe, like, I am good on my own. I don't need a man. I'm going to figure this out on my own. And so this is where I am. So we've been married almost 2 years, and I've been very transparent on my podcast. I've been very transparent with Zach about like, I don't know if I made that decision out of alignment or going back into an old pattern. I know deep down, I know the answer. I'm just working on being like brutally honest with myself. And I also had this limiting belief that was brought to my attention one day where I was like, I feel like I have this limiting belief that I can't make it on my own. Also, being raised in a Christian home, my dad was a Christian pastor for almost my entire life. I was programmed with needing a savior, that Jesus was coming to save me. If you were sick, you pray to Jesus and he's going to heal you. And my mom probably was like one of the most biggest believers in Jesus. And she waited her whole life for Jesus to save her. And I had shared a lot of the healing that I did, and she didn't feel she had the power to heal herself. From what Mallory shared as well with your mom with cancer, and how Lori, you're drawn to holistic healing. We actually do have the power to save ourselves, and it's our limiting beliefs. It's what we believe to be possible that's really shaping our reality. So this has been something that I've been really like sifting through is when we make these decisions based on what we knew at the time. Like at the time, I did get into that relationship with Zach and got married right away. And I was at a place where I wasn't really sure where I was going and I wanted to figure it out on my own. But he also was like, oh, you don't have a bunch of stuff. Just move in with me. Like, I want to have more kids because he didn't get the experience he wanted with his younger one. And I had a really good experience with my kids for the first 8 years of their life. And I felt fulfilled with my experience as a mom. However, I still chose to have a kid and then I'm pregnant again. I'm really at this place right now where I'm like, is this in alignment? Is this environment in alignment? Is this lifestyle in alignment? Is this relationship in alignment? Can I actually make it on my own? There's other people on this call too who have either been in an experience or they currently are where they're like, do I stay or do I go? Can I make it on my own? Like, I need the money to be able to move out. And that's where I am too, being fully transparent, especially with being pregnant. Some of the things that I was able to do, like the clinical studies, I was supposed to start a $10,000 clinical study the same month that I found out I was pregnant, 2 weeks before, and I couldn't do that. And I was really counting on that money to provide for my next couple months. And so now I'm kind of in this codependent space where I am relying a lot on Zach. And also, I know I'm fully capable of creating income for myself. And so, coming back, thinking about the environment you're in, do you feel you are dimming your light? Do you feel like you can fully express yourself and step into your highest self? Like when I visualize the highest self aspect of me, I don't see her in a traditional marriage. I just don't. I know so many women really want a husband, and this is my second time being married, and that does not fulfill me in the way that I feel like other women it might, or they think it might. My journey is learning to make it on my own, to still be there for my kids, but I vision it more as I keep seeing it as a community, like a homestead where women living together, because I feel like that's how we lived back in Lemuria days, especially. It was sisterhood. It was all of us together in community. We weren't closed off in these houses with fences in between. We were doing life together. We weren't raising our kids alone. And I know so many moms who are so burnt out and so afraid to actually be like, you know what, I am actually not feeling super fulfilled as a mom right now. Like, I don't have the joy of being a mom. And their kids can feel that. I felt that from my own mom. She was not happy. She told me like I was gonna go do this, this, and this, and then I got pregnant at 17 with you. And so I guess what I'm saying is like pay attention to the environments you're in, pay attention to the people that you're listening to and the people you're going to for advice. And it may take you time to finally be fully honest with yourself, just like it is for me. I'm still having really painful conversations with Zach. Like 2 nights ago, we had a really hard conversation. It was stuff he didn't want to hear. And I was being really honest. Sometimes our truth isn't what other people want to hear. And that does not mean that we have to dim our truth in order to make other people more comfortable. And so, yeah, if that resonates, have compassion with yourself, knowing the decisions you made. Like maybe you were like me and had the intuitive nudges, like, I know this is not for me. And maybe you moved forward regardless, like I have many times. It's like, for me, like forgiving myself, knowing I made that decision based on where I was at that time and having compassion for that version of yourself that was looking to fill whatever need it was, and then using the wisdom you have now, coming back to that blank canvas moment. I am not stuck. No one is caging me in this situation. And also, no one's coming to save me from this situation. If I don't want to be in this situation, I need to pull myself out of that. It doesn't mean you have to do it alone. That's why I believe in sisterhood, us empowering each other. But I cannot save any of you from any situation that you're going to or going through in life. I can't make decisions for you. I can't even tell you what to do. I can just share my own experience and be like, hey, this is what I learned when I was in this situation. And really, I just want you to go within. And this is where I'm working on right now is being like brutally honest with myself. And for you, if that's like writing it down, like for me, I wrote things down so much as a kid. And I really feel it's because that's the only place I felt safe to say what I actually wanted to say. So if it's starting out by just writing it down, awesome. If it's about calling up a friend and being like, hey, I really need to like vent in a judgment-free space and like I just need to get this off my chest, like do that. If it's going on a podcast and sharing your story, like some of you have, wherever you feel safe to express your truth and building up that self-confidence and self-trust within yourself. That is what I'm feeling pulled to do. And if that resonates, I want to invite you to have some heart to hearts with yourself in this time. Acceptance is also coming through too. We can't change reality. We can't change the past. We can't go back and rewrite it actually, but we can change the way we think about it. We can shift our beliefs. We can shift the way we view ourselves. We don't have to condemn ourselves and nail ourselves on the cross or judge ourselves. It's coming back to that forgiveness and grace and compassion and knowing that I know what I know now and I can actually make shifts to move forward from here. That's where I'm at in life right now. This major crossroads in so many areas. 6 months grieving my mom, 4 months into a pregnancy with my fourth kid, in my second marriage, like, what am I doing? And just going through this existential crisis. I get these glimpses of clarity. Like, I know where I'm going, and then it's like, wait, where am I? I'm feeling lost. Moments like this where either the new moon or full moon, or having a call with someone, or popping on a live, or hearing someone speaking, or reading a book, or hearing a certain song. It's those soul sparks. They light the darkness within, things that have been hiding in your subconscious or within that you're ready to see. That is what my intention is for all of us today and in this next season is like for you to have that soul spark, have that light from within to where you can see the next step and feel really, really confident in that and have the courage to do the things that you know you're meant to do, that you know your heart is telling you to do, that you're putting it off, whether it's leaving the relationship finally, whether it's writing the book or applying for the TED Talk or starting the business or making that phone call, whatever it is for you. So, anyway, I just talked a whole bunch. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
It was beautiful and perfect. Don't apologize for anything.
Sometimes I feel another limiting belief that I'm working through is no one cares about me or no one cares what I have to say. And so I will rush through it or I'll say what I feel they want to hear. I sometimes feel guilty for talking about myself or sharing my own stories. And I also know that I'm meant to connect with people intimately, and that's through stories. So thank you for holding space to listen. Thank you, Danielle, for inviting me to share more too, because sometimes I wait for permission instead of just saying what I want to say.
One of
Yeah.
the little intuitive messages that came through about you to me, this happens when I do Reiki, usually not in a web call or a Zoom, but it was, whose permission are you waiting for? And then you just said that seconds ago when you were talking about you taking the next step, stepping into your power. It was almost this vibe of you're waiting for someone to be like, yes, it's okay, go. So my little message for you to maybe meditate on later is, whose permission are you waiting for? So I just want to share
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. And one day I actually like wrote a permission slip to myself. Like, here's your permission to do this or to stop doing this or whatever. So, yeah, I needed that reminder because yeah, I like especially being married, like sometimes I feel like I have to ask Zach permission to like make decisions. Like when I post things, I unconsciously I'm asking permission, like, is it okay to share this? Thank you for sharing that. That was great.
I was going to add that I appreciate your honesty and transparency. I could relate to so many things, and I'm glad she invited you to share because it resonates so much. And then when you mentioned the whole, like, I've seen bits and pieces because I've followed you on Facebook and I've seen the transitions you've gone through and everything. And I'm just like, wow, like, congratulations on getting this far and all the things that you've accomplished because you've come a long way.
You. I really appreciate that too.
I
Thank
was
you so
gonna
much.
say, Tiffany, like I find it really interesting that you and I are both very Lemurian, and we have such a I don't know what our connection is, but I really want to dive into this more. I mean, I know, like we've already known that we're soul sisters, but everything you're going through and everything you've said, I mean, mine is having children. That's the only thing. I don't have children, but everything you're saying is hitting so deep with exactly what I'm going through right now. So I feel like there's a little bit more to that. I don't feel like that's maybe just the two of us. I wonder if there's some deeper past life wounding that we experience that's coming up from so many different people who resonate with being Lemurian. I'm really glad we connected just because of the fact that we oh my
I'm watching a
oh my
kitten right now. Just like Danielle invited me to go deeper, do you feel safe to share with the group? You've shared some things personally with me. If Lori or Danielle is going through something similar, especially without having the kids aspect, I would love to hear more about how it specifically related to you, and only if you feel safe and want to share more.
yeah, that's okay. I'm okay with sharing more. I think I can relate on so many levels with the people pleasing part of it and feeling like you have to fight in relationships that really hits home. Like women in general do that, but especially if they're healers like us, leaders, we really do that. It's like this subconscious programming of being taught that we need to play, we need to be small, we need to sit down, be quiet, look pretty. And it's like, no, but we're actually leaders. And that Lemurian energy in particular, as you already know, we were the matriarchs of our society. And I have my own viewpoints on, what that means for our modern society, but that energy is really trying to come through because we're really in this state right now where we need to heal that. I relate so much on the relationship aspect of it. And you and I have already talked about this, but to just share, and thank you for inviting me to share deeper with that. I'm also at this place where it's like, where do I move forward in my own marriage? And at first, our relationship was so good. It was so beautiful. But again, like exactly what you said that happened to you happened to me in this relationship. Like I wasn't previously married, but I was in a serious relationship and I was living with somebody who ended up being alcoholic, and he was technically my ex-boyfriend from when we were like 19. And I was super into him. I thought he was so hot. He was from San Diego. He was really tall, 6'5", like just hot, right? And typically, like my past, like I would date a lot of like men who were very, very unworthy, if not even having the slightest bit of my attention, and I would just go after the wrong people. And so when you were talking about that transition from that relationship, you were finally on your own. I think even Danielle, you were talking about this, you were like finally on your own, getting things good, and then somebody else comes into your field and you're wanting to be on your own, and you're like, no, finally, for me, that happened when I met my current husband now, where I had just gotten out of that relationship. I moved back closer to my hometown and was like just finally in that phase where my career was taking off. I finally had my own apartment. I didn't even have a roommate. Like I was paying for my own one bedroom. I mean, it was small, but it was cute and the amenities were great. And then my husband and I met at work, and he was like so adamant just from day one, like, no, I want to be with you. So when you were saying that, I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what happened. And then fast forward 5 years into our marriage recently, we've been married for 7 years now, dating for 10. And I found out a few years ago that he had addiction issues as well. So it's different. But again, like addiction is addiction is addiction. And I've been in therapy with my therapist for like 3 or 4 years ever since that happened, to try to navigate what do I do, and that permission slip, like trying to really get to a point where I want to define what's next for me. And I also feel like I'm very codependent as a Libra. We are the sign of partnership and love, and ruled by Venus. So love and partnership is totally my thing, and I thrive in partnership. And so when I found that out, that was Kitty. So cute.
She likes you. She keeps coming over here to hear you talk.
I was like,
Keep going.
Kitty, I think like this is part of why I do the work that I do, and I'm seeing a bigger picture now, especially lately, with how many women are getting lost in relationships and like not empowering ourselves to specifically like financially get out of it. And I don't know how many times I've put myself in a position where, and even now I'm in it right now, where I'm like completely reliant on my husband. I'm trying to grow my business. I'm like for the first time really going after that path, and I know that's called me for a really long time. And just building that and figuring things out, navigating that, while also at that crossroads that resonates so deeply with me of like, do I stay, do I go, what's next, what do I do? I also can envision what my future looks like very clearly, but I'm in this like, how do I get there? What is going to connect me to that future timeline to where I am now, and bridging that gap? And it's interesting because the work that we do, we are bridging gaps for people on where they're at and where they want to go, right? And the healing journey. And so I'm like, well, duh, like I know the fucking answer. Like, what am I doing? I have empowered myself with so much. And it's interesting because in the women's group, like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, like the networking groups, and one of them is just women, and we mostly mastermind, and it's not like, here's my business card, here's what I do. It's not like that at all. It's so much better than that. And what's interesting is a lot of them lately have reflected back to me of like, from the outside perspective looking in, I feel like you have it going on. You know what you're doing. You are very confident, but I have no idea what your offers are. And I want to work with you, but I don't know how to work with you. So I'm like, oh, fuck. Like I clearly have to like solve that and fix that. So a lot of what I've been dealing with lately has been patterns, like you were saying, figuring that out, doing that crossroads, going within, and I'm just in this like cycle loop of like nothing's changing, nothing's going anywhere, but how the fuck do I get off this hamster wheel? I need to get out of this. I am dimming my light. Does that include my husband or does it not? What does that look like? And I know what that future looks like. Like Margot, like I'm so glad you mentioned her because she is such a badass. And I went to her recent workshop. I went to one of her free workshops. She's literally one of the many women out there embodying like who I know that I really am. The higher self of me is dying to come out. fully grounded in the now and really just be in that energy and unapologetically, like no fucks given. And when you're a people pleaser, when you're stuck in that financial, it's just, yeah, I feel you on so many different levels. But when I found out about the addiction shit, I was pissed, and our relationship hasn't been the same since. That's one of the things I'm so glad that we have our connection, and that I have talked to you and I opened up and you opened up to me, because I know there's so many more people out there struggling with exactly that, and people don't know how destructive that is, and how people have normalized such a, yeah, that's fine, go do that. And I'm like, actually, no, like it's literally destroyed my marriage with somebody who I deeply, deeply love.
What feelings did that bring up for you?
Anger, just betrayal. It's, you and I talked about this, like betrayal wound. Like it hasn't just been sisterhood or women betraying other women. It's also been partners and men. And so it's coming from both sides. The only way to really actively, not just individually, but just collectively come together to heal that is to have a different dynamic between the masculine and feminine. Okay, so one thing I did want to mention earlier, for all of you here, I am diving deep into, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Celestine prophecy. I think you and I talked about that, right? And we're reading that. But I'm like, I already read that book, and I read now the 10th insight. Now I'm on the 12th insight book, and then the next is like the vision or whatever. I'm going through the entire thing, and I am just so amazed, and I feel like everybody needs to read that book. Like, so there's so many synchronicities, and opening yourself up to all of that. And like in my journey, me reading that at this moment feels like I am one of the catalysts to really spread this message. That's what I've been focusing on lately, is really trying to embody, stepping into the embodiment of what those prophecies were and the insights, and integrating. And one of the things that's calling me is travel, going to Sedona, going to California, going to Egypt, all of these ancient, amazing sacred sites. But I just wanted to share that because earlier when you guys were talking, I was like, oh my God, everybody, we need to read this if you haven't, or if you read it a long time ago, because I read some of them a long time ago. But anyways, yeah. So
as you were talking, I'm getting so many crown activations. My crown is like and down my arms. Also, I don't know if blue jays are significant for you, but I have not seen any blue jays here. I used to see them all the time in Kansas City, and one literally just landed in front of the window as you were talking to. So yeah, I don't know if that's like going with the Celestine prophecy. I don't know if that's a synchronicity you've already been seeing, or if the blue jay has something to do with your journey. But I know, like with their vibrant blue color, it connects to communication and authentically expressing. I just wanted to like, I wanted to point that out. And then coming back to the betrayal wounds, like you were talking about, it's not only with partnerships, it's also that sister wound and the betrayal. What was coming through as well, so a book I read recently is Loving What Is by Byron Katie, and she talks about doing the work, and she has this process where you reverse the situation. So if it's betrayal, basically with that process, the question would be, how are you betraying yourself? And it's not something you have to answer. That anger that you're feeling, when I feel angry, it's usually because I've betrayed myself, or I'm allowing someone to cross my boundaries, or I'm going against my intuition. The antidote to the betrayal is for us to stop betraying ourselves, to stop ignoring those intuitive nudges, to stop going against our intuition, to stop letting people cross our boundaries, or even crossing our own boundaries. Or if we're telling ourselves, I'm going to do this, and then we don't, it's this anger at self, and then we're easily able to see it with the mirrors in our relationships too. You talked about not knowing the how, and Virgo, being the perfectionist, is also very detailed oriented, and they want to know the whole fucking itinerary of how am I going to get there. And a couple years ago, I woke up in the middle of the night while I was on my journey, and I wrote down this formula for bliss. Basically, it was a manifestation method. The simplest way I can describe it is all we need to do is tell the universe, what do I want and why do I want it? And get super crystal clear on that, put all the details into that. Like, this is what I want, this is why I want it, and releasing the how and the when and the who to the universe, letting that be the surprise. I get caught up in not making decisions because I'm worrying about how it's going to happen. I'm automatically going into about this and I need to do this and that and that. And then I just freeze and shut down and then dissociate and go focus on something else. So, as we're setting intentions today on this new moon, it's really important for us to get clear on what we want and why we want it and really feeling those feelings, because really the why is the feeling that you're wanting. Are you wanting to feel freedom? Are you wanting to feel confident? Are you wanting to feel like you're making an impact? And really anchoring in those feelings, and then just trust that it's going to come through, and we don't need to know how or when it's going to happen or who's going to be involved. It's just knowing this is what's going to happen. I put in my Amazon order and it's on its way. I don't need to track every street sign that the truck is passing because I do that too. I'm like, when is it coming? So, yeah, I wanted to share that. With the sisterhood betrayal wounds, that goes along with so much of what we're sharing. The fear of judgment, or the fear of not being perfect, or being too much or not enough. And there's so many wounds that are keeping people from authentically connecting with each other. Deep down, that's what we're craving when we get into a relationship, when we're looking for a job. We want to feel like we belong where we are. We want to feel wanted and accepted and important. Danielle.
This is something that I've really never admitted out loud because there's a lot of shame around it, but it's something that I'm definitely overcoming. And you mentioned sisterhood and wounds and all that. So for the longest time, I would view like any healer as they're a competitor. Like they're gonna steal my clients with the fucking 450 people that follow me on Instagram. Like I'm nobody, right? This whole big stupid thing. And then you hear these people who've like made it big, right? Margot Miller's, I fucking love her, by the way. And I'm going to her free workshop on the 28th. And I'm so excited because unleashing of the fire, Mallory, you were talking about, was that's me. Like that's me in the background. That's my gypsy era in my house. And I was trying to find a cool background, and that one was like the first random screenshot. So bam, right there. Anyways, so sisterhood wounds. So, Tiffany, you were the first person I ever collaborated with and did podcasts with on threads randomly. And I was like, oh, cool, like podcasts. Like someone, I had a reading, a Akashic record thing, and she's like, that podcast. So then I was like, okay, podcast. And then we connected, and I was like, oh, that's not what it's about. Everyone has their own journey and their own framework or methodology, and things are going to vibe with some people that aren't going to vibe with others. That's the beauty of why it's awesome that there's so many of us, because while we share so many similarities, we're not the same person. That's a good thing and a really, cool thing. When you mention the wounds around sisterhood, if you can briefly just go more into that, because that's always been a theme that's come up. Or when the people who have made it big, they're like, oh, copy me, steal my ideas. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. What do you mean? I've personally had a lot of resistance around that I've broken out of this week. Have you had anything else you wanted to like expand on, or anything else that came through around that? Because that's always been a thing with me that I've never shared.
Yeah. So I have a story that wants to be shared. Right before I met Zach, I had gone through this. I first of all, I got surgery on my right foot. I had really bad bunions on my feet, and your right side is your masculine energy, and your big toe is like foundation. And so as I was going through that surgery, it brought up a lot of father wounds, and I went through this like whole initiation into healing my masculine energy. And the year before, I had my left foot surgery and had done a lot of feminine and mother wound energy. And so I had just gone through that surgery. I was healing, and then I had a lot of wounds come up to where I bought a one-way ticket to the other side of the world in South Africa. I had someone do a reading, and they were like, some guy's gonna see you dancing, kind of like you were saying, where you're like, oh, it's like meant to be or whatever, because I had this reading. And so this guy from South Africa saw a video on Instagram of me like, dancing and like just being silly, and we started talking. I ended up going there. Like in my pain, I was just still looking for a man to complete me. And it was like the worst. I don't know how to say this nicely, but it was like the most disgusting, misaligned person that I had ever been with, physically, spiritually, mentally, all of it. So that happened, and I was in South Africa. I overdrafted my bank account. I couldn't get a job there because it wasn't local, and I was just in a situation where I'm like, fuck, what do I do now? I ended up reaching out for help, which was a really big step for me. And Laura, you may have saw my post on social media. I got myself into a situation. I have no idea what to do. I need help. And I had this girl who I met from a fitness community that I was in back in 2016. She reached out and I barely knew her, and she was like, "Hey, I just started this business, this smoothie shop. Do you want to come stay with me? I have an empty room and you can come work at my smoothie shop and save up money to go back and see your kids." Because that was my goal. I was like, I'm missing my kids. I've been in Africa 5 weeks. I don't know what else to do. I got myself into this weird situation and I just really need help. I was at a point where I could not figure it out on my own. So anyways, I fly to Missouri to stay with her and thinking that she was trying to help me, right? I was coming from a place of needing a savior, needing someone else to help me because I wasn't willing to figure out a solution on my own. Got there, immediately found out that she was in a horrible situation with her and her husband. They were physically and verbally abusive, and I was having a lot of PTSD because I was staying in their house. They had a 1-year-old kid. I was hearing their arguments, and she was drinking really heavily and saying horrible things to me. I was sharing about things that I experienced in my first marriage, about how just things I was sharing earlier. My first marriage, I knew it was out of alignment. We had kids together. I was trying to stay together for the kids. I was in a bad depression. I ended up cheating on him a bunch of times, and that led me to hating myself more and more and more. And I just knew I needed to get away to heal. So I was sharing that just to be open and transparent and vulnerable. And one night when she was drunk, it was actually on Mother's Day, 2023. Um, there was a bunch of stuff that happened. I don't need to go into all the details, but the big thing around the sister wound and betrayal that was coming up is I was in a place where I was feeling wounded and really needing some support because I was really struggling to get through it on my own. And I didn't use my discernment to feel into is this actually a safe opportunity? Is this an aligned opportunity? I just jumped into the first opportunity that was presented. So Mother's Day, she leaves. Her husband's trying to get me to get a hold of her. They come home, they get into a big fight. I called my mom crying. I was like, I'm just having a lot of PTSD from when things were really toxic in my first marriage because things did get physical at the end. And before that, we were very verbally explosive. I was panicking and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm supposed to be here for another week. And then I was going to that clinical study in Kansas City where I met Zach. And she came home. She was super drunk. They were fighting. They came into the room because I guess she had taken his keys. He was trying to leave and they were trying to bring me into this fight. And I was already in this state of being triggered by past experiences. And I think they both were drunk. I know for sure she was drunk and she just seemed really unstable. And I just told her, expressed a boundary hey, I actually prefer not to be involved in this. And they both were not okay with that. And so then he ended up having his mom come pick him up. He left. And right after he did, she flipped out on me. First of all, she tried to get me to go to her smoothie shop and go to the safe and get all the money. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. They had cameras in there. I didn't want to go to jail for her trying to frame me for stealing money. And then she was mad at me for that. She started calling me, I don't even want to say the word because it was the only time I had been called that, but it was a C word and just flipping out on me. And I'm a really good-hearted person. I was trying to be there for her and help as much as I could while I also needed help and I needed a safe space to heal and make money. And I was working for $12 an hour at a smoothie shop, which was so below what I know I was worthy of. And she called me all these names, called me a whore, telling me how horrible of a person I was because I cheated on my ex-husband, telling me I'm such a shitty mom because I'm not with my kids, and just rejecting is what I was seeing it as. And it was midnight in this small little town in southern Missouri, and she told me to get the F out of her house. There were no Ubers. There were no hotels within walking distance. I had $100 in my bank account that I had made from working a whole week at her smoothie shop. I had met this girl at the smoothie shop that worked there as well. And so I reached out to her. Her mom ended up letting me stay at this Verbo healing center that she had, where she does this electrical thing that they put on your head. I can't think of the word right now, but anyways, she helps people. It's like this electromagnetic stimulation to different parts of the brain to help people with trauma. And she has a place where they can stay and do their healing treatments or whatever. So she let me stay there. She did have me pay a little bit because normally she rents it out when no one's staying there. But I had a safe place to go to. It was the middle of the night. I called the daughter of that lady and was just like, I'm so sorry. I don't know anyone. I can't get an Uber. I can't walk to a hotel. I have nowhere to go. Like, are you able to help me? And so I was able to go spend the last couple days, and I was supposed to be staying there. And so anyways, that was one experience where I experienced the betrayal, where I'm like picturing the witch wounds, where it's back when they were hanging witches. It was like, if you turn in a witch, then you won't be like, killed, basically. I don't know for sure, but just based on how she was acting and the things she was saying and other things she had shared with me, I felt like she was going through similar things that I was, and that she was projecting at me. And it was so painful for me to be honest with her, because she had turned on me and just nailed me on the cross in a sense, or betrayed me. It was a mind fuck for me, because I was already in this place where I was having a hard time trusting people. I was doing healing. I was trying to figure out how to like get back up on my feet. I thought I was doing the right thing by working for money and doing the steps that I thought I needed to get back to my kids. And yeah, I was in a very vulnerable state. And just the way she would talk to the other girls at the smoothie shop, it was just terrible. The things she would say, she would make them feel so shitty for making one little mistake on a smoothie. And it was just not the type of leadership or business owner that I would ever be. It was a lot. That was one instance where I was betrayed in that way. And then one of my friends who I had known since I was like 17, and she saw a lot of the different shifts I went through. I actually I didn't have to. I chose to cut her out of my life right before I had my youngest baby, because she's also going through an experience where she's miserable in her marriage. She told me that she had cheated on her husband. She slept with her friend and her friend's husband while she's still married, and she keeps saying she's going to leave the relationship, and she's not. Well, anyways, when I first met Zach, she was installing all these fears, like, I think that he's a serial killer, and I saw this vision, and you need to leave him, and you need to come back to Vegas, which is where she lives. She really wanted me to be there for her. She was trying to sabotage what I had. And when I found out I was pregnant with August, I was having a really hard time. I was having a lot of mother wounds come up, and I was sharing that with her, and she was encouraging me to go get an abortion. And I actually almost did, because I was just like, this is someone I trust, and if they're thinking I can't handle it and I'm thinking I can't handle having another kid, like, I don't think I can. And I know I'm capable and I'm a really good mom. I just don't know if this is what I want. I don't know how to balance all these different pieces. And so, on top of her not being very supportive of my pregnancy and really getting in my head about my relationship and my pregnancy, on top of that, like, she would talk so bad about Zach, my current husband. And then she would FaceTime me and she would be flirting with him, like, there's my person, when she would see him in the background. She tried private messaging him on Instagram and Facebook and starting a conversation. She was the type that would like look at all my stories but not really like my stuff. And I saw she added him and started commenting on his stuff, like, oh, you're such an amazing dad and stuff, but wouldn't be commenting on my stuff. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I directly talk to her about my concerns. You said all this bad stuff about Zach, but then you're flirting with him in front of me and you're trying to talk to him. He's like, why is your friend trying to talk to me? She denied all of it. She's like, oh my God, I have no idea what you're talking about. It was another betrayal where I felt not supported or heard. She really could have influenced me in a really negative way, and I could not imagine my life without August. He's been so amazing, and I'm so glad I didn't go through with that. But when you're in a really vulnerable state, and coming back to the environment piece that we started this conversation with, if you're not mindful and intentional with your environment and the people you're listening to for advice, it can completely change the trajectory of your life. I got into my first marriage based on what my mom wanted. I got into my second marriage based on what Zach wanted. I still chose those things, but I was doing it out of people pleasing. I was doing it based out of what they wanted for me and not being really honest with myself of what I wanted. And then I would talk to friends for advice who weren't even close to heading in the direction that I wanted to go. And we even learned that in our NLP. If you're not going to ask that person for advice, or if they're not living the life that you're wanting to, like, why are you listening to them for life advice? If they're not even close to living the life that you want to, who are they to be the authority to give you advice? So I know I just shared a lot of details, but that's why I have been wanting to create a safe space where women who are going through death or going through divorce or in a place where they're like, I feel like I messed up and I need to get out of this situation and I don't know what to do. I'm not trying to save them, but I want to have supportive sanctuary, like Soul Spark sanctuary, and eventually having centers where people can come stay and heal, whether it's a couple weeks or a couple months or whatever, to where you're not like me, where I slept with guys for a place to stay. I got married because I was unwilling at the time to figure it out on my own and got myself into so many situations that were so painful that I could have avoided if I had a safe, supportive group of women. And so I want to share that with you all, that you don't have two options. It doesn't have to be fight for yourself and fend on your own, or get into a relationship that doesn't completely light you up. It could be another option. It's not even just three options. It could be moving in with friends. I know that's a thing when you're in college age, but there's no shame in 30 and 40-year-olds moving in together temporarily, to have that support. I did like living on my own, but I got really lonely when my kids weren't there and it was just me by myself. Like, it's nice to not feel completely alone. And so there's other options. If you're like, I need to figure this out on my own, or I need to be married or in a partnership, there's more than just those two options. And I want to create spaces to help women have more options, whether it's having a house that people can come rent out the rooms or whatever and stay however long they need, or just helping them get resourceful. Trusted house sitters has been huge for me. You just pay a little bit and then you can travel and stay in people's houses and watch cats in exchange for a place to stay. There's options, especially when you're open to, okay, it doesn't have to be all or nothing or this or that. Okay, Danielle, I'll stop talking.
I wish I could have put a little bubble that said, I don't want you to stop your stream of consciousness, but like we've talked about it, your vision, what you want to do, and you're procrastinating it. You just spoke your vision statement, and doing mini sessions with people is fucking awesome, and you should share that, but your thing's way fucking bigger than that. And you have talked so much and so passionately about wanting to do that and have a safe space for women to come and to connect. Fuck whatever else you were thinking, Tiffany. That's your direction, because that, when you talk about it, you light up and you're so crystal clear and you say it with such conviction and confidence. There's no question in my mind that you won't do that. You're going to have an empire. And you just, like today, like this new moon, beautiful day, and this amazing conversation we're all having here, fucking do it. Write out a vision, mission, post it, talk about it. Take the clip from that you just spoke and just say, hi, here I am. I'm not kidding. I'm dead serious. I have like 15 messages for you from someone or somewhere,
Yeah.
but that one, you just figured out why you've been stuck. You've
Yeah.
been trying to go this way
Mhm.
when you really want to go this way. That's
Yeah,
it.
that was great. It is something I'm so passionate about, and Mallory talked about, like getting stuck in the not knowing the how. Since my NLP training, I downloaded the whole fucking blueprint and vision during a meditation that they guided us through on the first day. I know I want to speak on stages to women. I had this vision behind me with a bunch of blank canvases and showing people, you're the artist of your life, you're the creator of your life. You don't need to use paint. You can use pens or markers or literally whatever you want to create your life. And that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And in that vision too, I saw the campfire where I was holding a candle and I was trying to keep my light so small and I dropped it and it turned into this big bonfire. And then I could see all these women sitting around me. And I want to have spaces like that where it's in person and intimate and they're reconnecting with their inner child, where it feels like you're going to summer camp as a kid or having a sleepover with your best friends, and to be able to trust the women that you're with. Because I've been on both sides. I've been in circles where I felt really safe and supported. I've been in other ones where at first I thought I was safe and supported, and then they turned against me. They talked about me behind my back. They gave me horrible advice that could have completely made my life a lot more difficult. I'm not meant to do it alone. And that's where the piece of trust, I've been building the trust in myself so that I can make sure that I align with people that I know, like having that self-trust. Like I know I can trust this person, because creating a business or a vision with someone is like a marriage or having a kid with someone. I'm a part of a community right now where I just watched the two girls who were running it. It's a whole legal battle. Like they had been building this business for 6 years together, and one turned on the other and served legal papers. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, brought to my awareness the importance of self-trust and alignment. The more that we trust ourselves, the more we come from a place of alignment with making decisions and connecting with people, the more we heal where we're jealous of other people or the betrayal. The more we stop betraying ourselves and the more we stop being jealous of the people who are successful in our life, and the more we can support them and be what we're wanting to receive from other people, that's when we're going to see big collective shifts. And I've been on this journey. I'm still healing jealousy wounds and betrayal wounds and all those things. I'm like definitely not perfect, and I'm not saying I've mastered this at all. I just know that I've been through enough life experiences and initiations through the really painful wounds and through experiencing the opposite of what I want, so that I have an opportunity to be like, no, this is actually what I want. And calling in my people, my sisters that I can trust that have similar visions, who are not going to be like, oh, you're stealing my clients, or you're shining too bright, let me just project onto you. I want safe spaces where we all can bloom and thrive. And it's just like a garden. That's why this background was perfect with the roses and butterflies. We all can bloom and fly and thrive. And it's not going to take away from anyone else or hurt anyone else around us. If anything, we're going to be more powerful the more we can come together in union. And I feel like I'm about to start getting emotional. Mallory, do you have something to say?
I was just going to say, I really want to make sure that today I spend some time with journaling. I feel like the next thing is for all of us to manifest for ourselves. But I think one of the things that I always forget on these new moon rituals and everything is what we want to see happen collectively for everyone and other people as well. Your vision for this and coming together. But to me, your vision is very beautiful, and I envision that too. And I envision being around the fire in those spaces and providing that for other women. I really need to go inward a lot, especially you said a question earlier, I wrote it down. How am I betraying myself? You nailed it earlier with something you said about, oh, what did you say? That you said it so beautifully. Like, how do we, what did you say now? Oh, it'll come back to me. But anyways, yeah, just really like the next step, like everything you're saying now, I'm just sitting here thinking like, okay, how can we collectively break this pattern? It's like a loop in my head as we're all talking about everything. How can we break out of this? Like we've all had these wounds, we've all gone through these dark times, and it's important because we can't ignore the shadows to be a light worker, right? We have to go through really shitty stuff, unfortunately, and that's what we signed up to be when we came here. But then now I'm sitting here like, okay, we really need to spend some time today on writing down exactly what we want, because I'm right there with you, girl. Okay, time to get very, very clear, brutally honest with myself.
That's perfect. The most important thing I wanted to share today, coming back to answer your question, what I think how we help the collective is the more we do the self-discovery and spiritual alchemy, where it is this self-mastery, where we're like, I know my pain points. I know what triggers me. I know what my strengths are, and I know what my weaknesses are, and I can be brutally honest with myself, and I know I can trust myself. Then we're going to be able to create from that space, whether it's a business or a book or a community. And then we can actually help be the healer instead of being the hurting person who hurts other people. It's being the healed person who helps other people heal. Exploring Chiron, I invite you to look at where Chiron is in your chart and look at what's in your fourth house, which is around the home and family. Look at where Virgo is in your chart. So I wrote, find Virgo, which house is it in? And down here, this is how Virgo is expressed in each of the houses. So for me, Virgo's in my ninth house. So I would come down to the ninth house and it shows me how I can tap into that energy of Virgo during this season. And then same with Chiron, check what house it's in and where it's transiting. I wanted to do a guided meditation so that you can reflect on the wounds that you've experienced in your own story and pull out the wisdom. The Alchemist is all about turning that lead into gold. And I feel like that is the purpose of life on earth. We can't avoid pain. We can't avoid grief. We can't avoid the struggles. That is such a necessary part for us to develop the skills and develop the experience that we need. It's like the school of life. That's what teaches us and trains us to be able to step into our mission. So we can't bypass it. So it's like, how can we use the hard stuff and use the healing practices that we've all been drawn to? And how can we pull out the gold from the grit and pull out the wisdom from the wound? And taking that and stepping into sacred service. All of us have a similar mission of wanting to help people alchemize their pain and help them step back into their power. And it may be in similar ways, it may be in different ways. Collectively, it starts with the inner journey through that space too. Virgo is connected to the Divine Mother. It's really healing your inner child, healing your mother wounds and your father wounds, and reparenting yourself, like spending time in nature to reconnect, being able to take anything that's dying in your life and transform it, just like a phoenix. Right now, we're about to move as a collective into the phoenix archetype, cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is actually my life incarnation cross. How can we help guide people through these deaths and rebirths? I did have some reflection questions too, if this would support you. I have a 4-step process that I downloaded back in 2020. It's grit, it's gather, release, identify, and transform. And it's basically bringing you to the now, gathering where you are in the now, releasing what's no longer serving you from the past, identifying where you want to go in the future, and then transforming it. So I'm going to send this to you all. I wanted to come back into our body and ground it and then let you go fly free and integrate however you need. A playlist that you can answer the questions on your own or journal in whatever way you want to help reflect. I want to give everyone a 5-minute break to go get some water, go pee, or do whatever you need to do. We'll do a 5-minute bio break. Okay. All right. Love you all. I'll see you in 5 minutes.